Hello again, Conte. You might be wondering why I am beginning this video on a quest complete screen. Well, I just wanted to show you my set. You might recognize this if you see my other videos, but I know there's a lot of new people too. So I'm going to go over it again, but it is a completely defensive set. This set works on Alatreon, incredibly easy because you're basically a tank, full divine blessing, all of the health up, all the recovery ups, all of that jazz. And you'll see that I've just beaten the quest in roughly 30 minutes, full time on screen now, 30 minutes and 12 seconds. Not bad at all given the set that I was running and the fact that I was basically invulnerable. Now I know I'm probably sounding like a broken record at this point. I know I've done this video basically for every extremely difficult monster that comes out, but Alatreon is a different thing, to be honest. I wasn't even going to do it, but Alatreon is so difficult and so many people are complaining that they can't even beat the quest once. I thought at the very least I'll put out this video just to give you a guaranteed method to be able to kill it. So yeah, here's the set again. As you can see, all defensive skills. None of these are necessary. You use whatever defensive set you like. Please don't complain about Guarenteed being too high late game. It doesn't matter. You can use whatever you want. You can use any defensive set you like. It doesn't matter. And just a quick primer for anybody who isn't aware of how this strategy works, just so that you can take advantage of it too. With Kinsect, don't worry if you don't play Insect Glaive. We're not using Insect Glaive. We're just using the Kinsect, which means the only controls you need to know are how to send out your Kinsect and how to repeatedly send it out and how to recall it. Very, very easy. You hold the left trigger and you press triangle and circle on the PS4 controller, whatever equivalent buttons are on the Xbox One. The only other control you need to know is how to charge your Kinsect. So as you can see, 38 damage on the training pole. If I charge my Kinsect by holding left trigger and pressing triangle and circle together with ammo from a monster, so you can see I'm using a piercing pod for example, 685, you can see it's almost doubled. It makes a huge difference. So yeah, charge your Kinsect with the monster ammo that you get from using a claw attack on Alatreon, because Insect Glaive is a light weapon, and then just keep spamming your Kinsect. You'll see gameplay of this in a second, but I thought I'd go over the set quickly first. I'll talk about weapons in a second, but I'll just cover the skills. As you can see, my preferred defensive skills: Divine Blessing, Stun Resistance, a bunch of Elemental Resistances, Blight Resistance so I don't have to keep Null Burying, Health Boost and Recovery Up basically. Defense Boost was kind of just an aside, and also Evasion Window. Again, pick whatever defensive skills or sets you like. Now here's the bit that can't vary. You do have to follow this quite specifically. So your offensive skills don't affect your Kinsect, by the way, just in case you weren't aware. The reason we're running so many defensive skills is because attack, agitate, and none of that stuff affects your Kinsect. I did a video on this in the past. I'll have it linked at the end here or in the description or something. But yeah, so we just want to pick a good Kinsect. For me, I tested like 5 or 6 of them, but I ended up going with Gleam Beetle, Velox. You can see here element, it's been augmented for fire because I'm starting this quest and sort of spamming it in ice mode. However, if you want to start with the other mod, if you want to start in fire mode, then take an ice Kinsect. It's really not that difficult. To make the Kinsect isn't particularly hard either. They're fairly cheap. But yeah, it has a good amount of element, a reasonable amount of power, and it's fast enough to be able to chase Alatreon's head around. You saw in the previous bit of video, I had an elemental boost Insect Glaive. Here I have blunt boost. I would recommend blunt boost myself personally, but I just wanted to show off both examples. The glaives that I use for both examples rather. This is the glaive I would recommend, Aerial Rod 2. Blunt boost, here's the, I'll talk about why it's Row 6 in a second by the way. Fully health regen augmented, because again attack augments don't make a difference to your Kinsect damage. And the set might be slightly different, I had one less slot, I don't fully remember. But yeah, here is the weapon that I've been using and the Kinsect that I've been using. I suggest blunt boost over element boost, because for me, at least during testing, the blunt boost gave you more damage during dragon mode, and even though it gave you slightly less during the main phase, I was still easily meeting the element sort of checks, so I didn't have to worry about that. And so I wanted to focus damage into dragon mode because you're already doing so little damage there. Sort of averaging out the damage you do overall, I prefer blunt boost. It gives me more DPS overall in my opinion, but feel free to test with both types of glaives and choose whichever one you prefer. Now you don't have to do this with the Rare 6 glaive, and you definitely don't have to do this Kinsect only. I'm just demonstrating Kinsect only as possible and is simple. However, you can use a Rare 12 glaive or whatever rated glaive you like. The reason I opt for Rare 6 is because of the 3 old world health regen, the ones from before Iceborne. The new health regen augments, they give you a lesser percentage of your damage, because in endgame we do so much more damage nowadays. They have to give you a lower percent, otherwise the health augment will be broken. And so it gives you less of your damage, but because we don't benefit from any offensive skills or anything, there's no reason to take a higher glaive if you're doing Kinsect only, and so I picked the old world ones which give you a higher proportion of your health back. You'll see during the footage. Maybe I've already skipped to that footage now. But yeah, that's all the information you really need. As on screen now is me using the set. You just spam the Kinsect on Alatreon's head as much as you can and go for the arms. There are some finer points that I do need to go over regarding how to handle things like the Nova after 2 horn breaks and stuff, but we'll get into that in just a second. I just want you to sort of take in just how quickly you heal with this and just how little damage you take with it. It's pretty amazing. Eat for Safeguard, by the way. I would recommend you eat for Safeguard, and we'll talk about why in a second. I've done a video on how to unlock Safeguard if you haven't got that already. So hopefully you've seen my video regarding the Alatreon mechanics. If not, I will take us to Microsoft Paint now. I have the diagram from the previous video on screen. Don't worry about it too much. Basically, just to illustrate, you start from fire mode, you go into dragon mode without a nova, and then you nova to change forms into ice mode. And then similarly, you go into dragon mode without a nova, and then you nova into fire mode. And it's just an infinite loop that the monster goes through. And if you break its horn in dragon phase, then it becomes a circle rather than a figure eight. Again, see the previous video I released. It's quite important to understanding this method. But I'm going to presume you've seen that. If it's in ice mode, take a fire weapon, take a fire Kinsect. If it's in fire mode, take an ice Kinsect. Either way, take an advantageous Kinsect. And during the first phase and the first dragon phase, knock it out of its nova. Make sure you topple it over, so not knock it out of its nova, but topple it over so it does a weak nova. You can usually get 2 topples if you're quick enough. Once you've toppled it over, eventually it'll go into dragon mode, break its horn. You do have to break the horn for this strategy, so make sure you break the horn. Then when it novas, you won't die because you weakened it, and it'll go back into its mode, and so you'll still have an advantageous Kinsect element. You repeat the process, you break the second horn, you survive the second nova, it goes back to the right element, you repeat it a third time. Now things get a little bit different. Again, this will make more sense if you've seen the previous video, but yeah, now that there's no more horns to break, you'll survive this nova because it started off in the advantageous Kinsect mode, but because you won't be able to break a horn this phase around, after it novas, which you will survive, after it novas, it will now move over to the wrong mode. It'll move to ice or it'll move to fire. It'll swap. Here, unfortunately, there's nothing you can really do. You could take a cart, but it's going to not make any difference when it transfers to the other mode. And because Kinsect damage is low and it takes longer to do, you are going to have to deal with multiple of these phase changes. So, in my opinion, the best way to handle it is to just soldier through it. You'll be doing ice damage to an ice mode or fire damage to a fire mode Alatreon, which means you do 0 elemental damage. This is part of the reason why I recommend blunt boost, is because it gives you more damage during these phases too. But yeah, you're not going to be able to topple it out of element mode. You're just going to keep hitting it. It's going to nova and you're going to die. At this point, it's gone through a fire and dragon, a fire and dragon, a fire and a dragon, and then an ice and a dragon. So you had 4 big loops in order to damage it, and you've taken 1 cart. Hopefully, you shouldn't have cart. Try to avoid carting without outside of the nova. This is the defensive set. Remember, take your defensive set. Don't die because you need all your carts. Now, when you took the nova and died, it would have transferred back to the right mode. So if it started at fire, it went to ice, and then it novaed you and you died, and now it's back to fire. So don't change to a different Kinsect. You're still going to be using the same Kinsect throughout. Jump down there, and now you'll be able to do good damage again. You'll be able to topple it out of elemental, and it won't be able to kill you with its nova. However, because there aren't any more horns to break, it will transfer to the other mode. At which point, you can then fight it. It will go into dragon. You'll be doing no elemental damage. It will nova, and you'll die again. This is just part of the strategy. By the time you've reached this point, you should have been able to kill Alatreon. You've had 5 or 6 full loops. You can give yourself another one of these loops if you take Feline Safeguard, and that basically guarantees you the kill. You basically get all 50 minutes. I've done this a few times now, and so far my times have both been like 30 minutes and a few seconds. I think 30 minutes 12 and 30 minutes 20 something. So it's very consistent because, I mean, it is slow damage over a long period of time. Yeah, it's very consistent. You're going to kill it in roughly half an hour, which means you're going to have to tank probably 1 or 2 novas. As you can see from my end screen, I only carted once. I only fainted once, 1 out of 3, and I didn't eat for Feline Safeguard, so that's not like confusing the things. So if you are quick enough, you'll be able to kill it with only 1 cart, and you'll be more than safe enough. You can afford to even cart a few times on your own. However, if you're finding it hard to aim for the head or aim for the arms, I would definitely recommend that you take Feline Safeguard so you have a whole extra loop to sort of finish off and make sure it dies. If that's not enough, if you're unable to kill it with all of that time, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think I can help you. Sorry. Just practice aiming or find some other cheese strategy that's maybe a little bit more risky but a little bit quicker. This is meant as a sort of brain. It shouldn't happen to you. It's very unlikely you won't be able to beat this. Unfortunately, the hunts will tend to take around half an hour each, so it's lengthy. I never claimed it was, fast. I never claimed this was some sort of godly speedrun strat. I claimed it was consistent and easy, and yeah, very simple to do. Easy to build the sets for. You need a rare 6 glaive, so it's not exactly difficult. Yeah, it's easy, but unfortunately, it is quite slow. And I guess the only other thing I really have to talk about is how to actually do damage to Alatreon. Take advantage of flinchshots and things like that. They can be quite handy to rack up some DPS. Use flashes when you're able to, and knock it out of the sky. Take every opportunity you can to get good sort of bonus damage on it. You can bring bombs and use those if you need a little bit of an extra jump in DPS maybe. And then every time you kite, you can go restock. It's up to you. There are other ways to sort of eke your DPS out. However, this run, I just wanted to do bare bones insect glaive. Other notes are use your insect glaive claw attack to get some slinger ammo on the ground for you to charge your Kinsect with. What else? If you are going to flinch shot it, don't use your Kinsect ammo because it will run out eventually. Alatreon can only be attacked with the claw to drop slinger ammo like, I don't know, 5 or 6 times maybe. I don't keep count, but yeah, so swap to rocks on the ground, drop your slinger ammo on the floor, flinch shot it, do your damage, and then go pick up your slinger ammo again if you really want to flinch shot, so that you don't waste it. And the last point I have to make is about actually using the insect. Send it out, keep an eye on its stamina, make sure you're trying to focus the head and the front arms. When it flies into the air, just honestly go to town. just wail on it. I did get the Kinsect anywhere near the region and just spam triangle, to be honest with you. It's very difficult. Get used to some of the motions where Alatreon sticks its head out and does those little feints or whatever they're called, where it sort of does a fake roar. Those nice long openings. Get used to when they are, and then time your Kinsects accordingly. Try not to have too much downtime where the Kinsect is flying in the middle of nowhere. If you're rushing my run though, you'll know that I messed that up a whole bunch of times, and it's not particularly aggressive. As I said, I'm reasonable with this strat. I have a little bit of practice, and I was able to do it with only one cart. If you have feline safeguard, you have a whole 2 other carts, which are a whole 2 other loops. So you'll easily be able to finish it off. And yeah, hopefully this gameplay has made sense, and hopefully the explanation has made sense. It will make more sense if you've looked at my Kinsect video and my tutorial on Alatreon's mechanics. So I would advise you have a look at those. They'll probably be linked in the end card or something. But yeah, please do let me know if you have any other questions. As far as the set goes, again, build your favorite defensive set. Pick the blunt boost glaive that I recommended and just augment it up with health regen. Yeah, I think it's fairly self-explanatory. Hopefully this helps for anybody who's like desperately struggling on the hunt. Again, this video isn't meant for people who are, oh, I can solo Alatreon in 2 seconds and 0.5. No, this is meant for people who are struggling with the hunt, obviously. So yeah, if you're having a bad time with it and you're unable to kill it so far, then go to town with this strategy and you should be done. Yeah, so hopefully that helps, and I hope you have a good time with the hunt. Take it easy. Bye-bye.